Hey friends, it's Nicole here. I am finally back with a new video after a very full fall wedding season here in Ontario. I took a bit of a break from YouTube because I was actually out shooting weddings. Fall is the best weather we get here in Toronto, so everyone wanted that cozy October date. My last wedding of the season was November 1st, and after that point it gets very chilly here. So today I'm going to walk you through one of my very favorite fall weddings, a beautiful outdoor ceremony at a conservation area. And I'll show you the gallery, I'll share a few of the trickier parts of the day, and I'll talk to you about how I handled them so everything still felt calm and relaxed for the couple. Brooklyn and Noah's wedding, and I think it was in the end of October. I live in the Toronto area, Toronto, Ontario, and this was just north of the city. So I'm starting out showing the highlights. I have the first tab in every gallery. I create a highlight folder of some of the best photos just so they're all in one place, and I think it gives like a better first impression to have the highlights all in the front. So here's a little overview. The ceremony was in this really nice conservation area. It was all trees everywhere, and then there was this really nice pathway where we took some photos as well, and then later the reception was at a golf course nearby. So these here were some like sunset portraits of the golf course. All right, I'll show you, let me see, ceremony. It's the next tab over. They didn't do a first look. I guess that wasn't important to them. So when I spoke to them before the wedding, we created a timeline with no first look, and I started photographing everything at the ceremony. But the bride, Brooke, wanted to have a first look with some of her closest friends. That was really sweet. So with that, I always make sure we get the reaction of the people who are seeing her for the first time. It was really cute. So we did a few photos with the friends, and then before the ceremony starts, I always just capture candids as people arrive. Like some nice happy moments were going on. The lighting was a little tricky in that direction, but we just exposed for the highlights so that we didn't lose any detail. And then the shadows are relatively dark, but at least that way you don't lose any detail. Same thing here, wasn't great lighting where the bride was walking. I also just kept shooting because the light was changing. At some points they were in shade, like I think this one right here. I just kept shooting a lot, and I thought, well, I'll hopefully get a good moment where the lighting is even, and this is an example of that. Here's the bride with her parents, and again, this was a spot where the sun was in a better position relative to them, and it looked pretty good. The way they were set up, it was nice. We could get the groom's reaction here. So I want to show you the wedding party because they had a really big wedding party, and I find that can be kind of tricky. So there's a few suggestions that I have if you have to photograph a big wedding party. Okay, so we line them up against the fence here and just have them looking at the camera. Once I have them lined up, like I like to vary things without moving them so that you can get multiple types of images. So like talking to each other and laughing is an example. And then let me see, then I asked them to go for a kiss, and then everyone else could cheer. That way you get some variety without having to move a whole bunch of people. And then there was this stage that they had used for their ceremony, and I thought that would be perfect for a big wedding party because we have levels here. So anytime I have a big wedding party, I like to look for levels or even like a hillside if I'm desperate. But steps are great, and this was in like decent even lighting, which was even better. And it was right next to that first location because I didn't want to walk around the whole conservation area with a huge group of people. I think it's better to keep everything like easy to access, especially if ladies are wearing high heels. I don't want to go on a hiking trip with a huge group of people, so Yeah, we just set them up here. I had to get kind of far away, so I was in like the chairs that were behind over this way. So once again, I did something similar, had them looking at the camera. I asked the couple to kiss and the rest of the people talking at the same time. This was the second photographer. He was on a longer lens to get some tighter shots. Yeah, then we split up the wedding party. I went with the bridesmaids and my second photographer went with the groomsmen. I had a really good second photographer with me who I trust, and I knew he could get those photos. So I had the bridesmaids up against this fence, and the lighting again was even on their faces and body, like the lights coming in behind them slightly, which was good. I had them, looking at the camera, then talking to each other. I always do some close-ups of their bouquets, like I think with the 50 millimeter at a wide aperture, because I like the blurry foreground and background. And then I asked the bridesmaids to go for a short walk. It was very short. It was just like a couple feet. And then there was one more large, I did photos of bride with each friend. And then there was one, this was it, the large group shot. This was another area. It wasn't too far from the ceremony site, so we just walked a little bit just to get a little bit more variety. I had it more casual with some people crouched down. And then we did another series of walking shots with the whole bridal party. I wanted them all to walk and interact, laugh, and then the couple went in for a kiss at the end of it. And then I asked them to cheer, which is kind of cute. So I'll show you quickly some bride and groom photos. So once again, I tried to keep it easy. And this fence was a great spot for the wedding party photos. So we used it again for the bride and groom, but I shot it at a different angle so that it would look kind of different. And I had the groom posed with his back against the fence because the sun was coming in behind him like that. So I knew that if I shot from this way with him against the fence, he would block the sunlight from hitting the bride. So they would be in even light. So I did a few, full body photos, got some different angles and some nice close-ups. And then once I felt like I had a good variety from that fence location, we moved on to another location. This was also really close to the ceremony site, so we didn't have to go very far. Because I find usually I don't have that much time to do these photos. So if I can find multiple areas that look good for photos that are different, that are all close to each other, it's the most efficient way to get a good variety of photos. And then we had them walking. She had cute shoes on, so we got some pictures with the shoes. And there was a chair actually that was sitting somewhere near where the ceremony was, and we brought it out into the forest, and that looked kind of cool. And then let's see. Okay, so we had to walk a little bit to get to the next location. So whenever there's a transition, that's a good opportunity to get some nice walking photos. I asked them to look at each other and smile. And then we got to this area here. It was tricky the way this path was in relation to the sun. The sun was coming in. You can see the sun hitting the groom's forehead on the left here. So once again, I placed the groom so that he would block the sun from hitting the bride. And I tried to angle myself so that the sun would be behind them as much as possible. You can see the sun is coming this direction here. And I was trying to move over to the right so that the sun would be behind them. That way the lighting would be even across the front of them. And I like that look of the backlight. You can see the highlights in their hair, which is pretty. So the angles we were shooting, we picked these angles on purpose. And then we did a few more walking shots. See, the sun was hitting her on her face there. And then these are different. Later on, we went to a golf club and we could do some photos like right around sunset time. I find golf clubs are tricky because often they won't let you use the grounds. It's very limited because people are golfing and you don't want to get in their way or get hit by a wayward golf ball. But this area, I don't know, anyone could access it. And it did have like some beautiful fall colors in the background. So if I do these like sunset photos, I don't usually take too long because the couple, they're so excited to talk to all their friends and family during the reception. And I don't want to have them away from everything, all the excitement for too long. And I already knew I had a ton of good photos from earlier. Sometimes if I feel like I don't have enough photos from earlier in the day, I'll ask them if they could do a couple minutes of sunset photos just to fill in the gaps. And I'll show you this tab because cocktail hour, I remember there was a little bit of a tricky scenario and I'll just explain it. Okay, so they had these cute drinks. This was like, in general, this was it was easy to photograph people here because there was still sunlight coming in and there's light walls. See, and there's big windows, so I didn't have to use flash or anything like that. But let me see, the trickier part comes here because there's harsh sunlight coming in from behind these people. So I was trying to keep the sun behind them again. Like when I asked these people if they wanted their photo, I purposely asked them to turn to face the direction where the sun would be behind them. Otherwise, they could have been staring straight into the sun and squinting. Okay, here's an example, right? These like group photos at cocktail hour. It was looking really pretty because the sun was like setting. When I took the picture, the sun was coming straight into my lens. So the way I positioned it was having this sun kind of filtering through these trees, so it made it less hazy, the image less hazy. And then I also used direct flash to brighten up their faces. You can see it has that flash look to them. But that way I could have like properly exposed faces in front of them and still the nicely exposed background. So here the sun was still up. They had these shades down just because it was like that direct sun coming in. So that softened the sunlight a little bit. And then you can see it's getting darker and darker outside and I've been using my flash the whole time here actually. It was bouncing it. The walls are like a light cream color and the ceiling was similar, so it was easy to bounce and get even light on everyone. And then I'll just quickly show you this and wrap it up. All right, here's the reception. So I was like close to them. I can't remember if I was close to them, but always for these entrances, I'll pick my position, which I think is the best position, and then I'll ask my second photographer to do another to be in a different spot that's not going to be in my frame. I always like to get guest reactions, so we'll get the pictures of the people coming in and then spin around and get the reactions of everyone else in the room. Those are always fun. Oh, this was a cute little baby photo. And then, if the bride and groom make the rounds and go talk to people at different tables, a lot of time they'll do that during the reception. I'll kind of follow behind, like I won't get in the way, but I'll just take some candid photos. And that was all using my bounce flash. And there you can see I think that's the groom's mom. So I always keep an eye on, there's the groom's mom again. Certain key people, like the groom's parents, the bride's parents, grandparents, and those people in particular I tend to focus on a little bit more just because they're very important to the couple. So I think that wraps it up.
Thanks so much for hanging out with me and walking through this wedding with me. I hope seeing the full gallery and hearing how I navigated those little tricky moments helps you feel more confident planning or photographing your own wedding day. And if you enjoyed this, please hit subscribe and let me know in the comments what part of the day you're most nervous about. Is it the getting ready, the ceremony, the portraits? I'd love to do more videos breaking down those pieces and give you the information that you want. So I'll see you in the next one. Bye.